I beg to differ. Those
Yeah,
countries,
that is
those
clear. I mean,
countries,
all the gold
that,
out of Africa went to Europe. You know that.
Okay.
What did they do with the gold that they got out of the African colonies? They didn't use it in Africa. It was sent to Europe.
And so how did you think
And
manufacturing industry developed in South Africa?
Exploitation.
It was not. The wealth that was created there or the gold supplies provided the financial wherewithal to begin the manufacturing and industrial development of South Africa. It enabled the manufacturing development slowly but surely of Australia with the gold discoveries there.
The roads of Rhodesia, they took British wealth to Rhodesia.
Name a whole country after them.
And name the country after them. That's why, and they changed the name of the country to Zimbabwe. But what is the...
Wait a second. Didn't you name a communications network after yourself?
Yes, but this is a private thing.
Well,
this is not a government. Zimbabwe was not a private man's property. Zimbabwe was a country, was a people owned Zimbabwe.
With inhabitants.
Right? Cecil Rose and his brother went to Zimbabwe with the money that they got from slavery and changed the name of Zimbabwe to Rhodesia, named it after themselves. That's what they did.
Well,
but you think that's all right?
I think that, okay.
Yeah,
okay,
take a deep breath now.
I'm taking a deep breath because, you know, we need to put things in perspective.
That is the perspective.
Okay, wait a second. I'm not going to defend British imperialism. I'm not going to defend the hard and brutal methods that these colonial masters too frequently and brutally did to the indigenous populations. I will not in any way defend that.
Okay, good. That is all Godfrey was saying. That was the point. So you agree with the point.
But it is the fact that, that in these colonial areas, precisely because of their economic attractiveness, European countries, Britain, France, others, found lucrative opportunities to invest. And capital investments, infrastructure investments were made in places like India, for example, at a much faster rate that ended up providing infrastructure and transportation facilities, including for the local populations, that would not have occurred as quickly if those societies had had to rely upon the much smaller pool of domestic savings. The capital accumulation in Europe enabled the growth of infrastructure and industry in these countries at a faster rate than otherwise would have occurred.
India grew as it has because of after independence.
Dr. Ebeling, just imagine. Do you think Jamaica would have been in the state it's in if the profits from sugar were invested in Jamaica, as, for example, the profits from oil is invested in Saudi Arabia? Jamaica would have been a developed place. Cuba would have been a developed place if the profits were invested in those countries. But the profits were extracted. Whereas the profits in Saudi Arabia are invested in Saudi Arabia.
The same thing with Haiti? The same thing with Haiti. The French robbed the Haitians.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, take another deep breath.
Okay. If the plantation owners in Jamaica who grew the sugar choose to take their profits and invest them someplace else, it's their profits.
Not on the backs of Africans.
Why? I mean, were these people not paid for their labor?
They weren't paid for their labor.
They would. Oh, in other words, these people worked for free.
Yes, they did.
If they worked for free, how come they lived to have descendants?
It was called slavery. That's what it was called.
Slavery ended in 1834.
Yes, but the proceeds of slavery was responsible for the development of Europe, many countries in Europe. The profits of slavery.
Some of it, but slavery ended in 1834. You cannot blame the conditions in other parts of the world in the remainder of the 19th century and the 20th century for an institution that died in 1834.
Wait, let me make this point, Dr. Ebeling. People like Jones and I have gone through 3 stages of development. Our forefathers were chattel.
Right.
And after they were chattel, we became subjects.
Okay.
Right? Your country fought against being British subjects, and in 1776 you all became independent.
That's right.
Right? We didn't become citizens of anything until 1972.
73.
73. That's when we became citizens. Right? Up until then, we were subjects. And when you're a subject, you don't have control over your resources. You all were smart enough to kick them out.
To fight for it.
You know, first of all, it doesn't matter if you're under a king or a queen. It depends upon whether they respect people's rights to their property and their lives. Hong Kong was not were not citizens of Great Britain. They were subjects ruled by a governor general. Yet from the end of the Second World War until the agreement with China in 1997, they had a regime of almost laissez-faire. They couldn't vote, but they had economic freedom, and they burst with economic prosperity while the remainder of the Chinese population on the mainland under communism lived under tyranny and starvation. So just being a subject doesn't mean you're going to be poor. Being a subject doesn't mean that the governor general doesn't respect your property rights and allow you to prosper. Now, if the British governor general here mismanaged his delegated authority to prevent you from managing your property, finding economic opportunities, abusing the political system for the benefit of some, I will condemn that.
Yeah, but
just because you were a subject
Hong Kong
didn't per se mean that you were somehow a slave.
Let me make this other point, right?
Yeah, we have to take a break.
Wait, but let me make this other point. No Caribbean country was able to improve its standard of living until it became independent. When, after independence, is when Caribbean countries began to move up the economic ladder, not under colonialism. And Bahamas was the leader in that we were able to improve our standard of living, improve our quality of life when we became independent.
Okay, we have to take this break here on the program, Dr. Ebeling, and we'll come right back. This is the final segment of our program today, and we are speaking with Dr. Ebeling. And good governance, what is it all about?
Good governance is, in my opinion, a government that recognizes and secures the individual rights of its citizens to their life, their liberty, and their honestly acquired property, that enforces and protects contracts, that prevents against violence, fraud, theft, but basically is a good government by respecting self-government. And what is self-government? The ultimate self-government is each individual to govern his own life, guided by his own dreams and ideas, freely associating with others as he finds it mutually advantageous. Good government is not government coming in and telling people how to live their lives.
But isn't good governance or governance responsible for public safety, public health, the environment?
Preventing fraud.
Yes.
I just said that.
The good governance is supposed to protect the weak in your society. And when the weak are not able to afford education or food, isn't that good governance is about protecting them?
Well, let us suppose that...
And what they do in the United States of America is the weak who aren't able to afford food. The government ensures.
Okay, where does the government get the money to ensure this?
From taxes.
Okay, so they're taking from Joe to give to Bill.
No, but you should pay the taxes for the upkeep of your society and for the health of the citizenry.
Wait, what is the morality that if I say to you, listen, I have nothing against helping people who are less well off. I might want to do it myself, but I don't like the way you, the government, are doing it, and I don't want you to take my wealth and give it to others in ways that I consider maybe even be counterproductive. The government will then say you have to pay those taxes.
For the common good.
And what if you refuse to pay the taxes?
We get locked up.
And what if you try to resist arrest?
Go to jail.
And what if you resist going to jail? They can use physical force against you, can't you?
Yeah.
So in other words, to assure that someone is given a public housing by the government or to give a breakfast in some welfare program, you're willing to kill another person to take their wealth to do it.
No.
Why do you get